What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop. So several months ago I made a top 5 worst middle evolution Pokemon video, and it did really well. Several of you have asked me to do the same thing for fully evolved Pokemon, and so that's what we're going to be doing today. As we all know, there are some Pokemon out there that basically suck. Of course everyone is entitled to their opinion, but there are some Pokemon out there that pretty much everyone agrees are awful. And so in this video I've put together a list of 5 fully evolved Pokemon that I think fit that bill. So if you enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like, and without further ado, let's get into the list. Okay, the first Pokemon on this list is none other than Sunflora. I've heard a lot of people bag on Sunflora over the years, and while I don't really have some sort of personal beef with it, I can agree that it's pretty bad. Firstly, its stats are quite terrible, and usually I'm not one to hate on a Pokemon just because of bad stats, but it just adds insult to injury when this Pokemon is literally a sunflower with a face. Sure, there are other Pokemon that fall into this uncreative category, like Execute for example, but at least Execute has the tiniest bit of creativity in that each egg, or seed if you prefer, has a different personality. Sunflora doesn't have any of that, it's just a sunflower. That's it. Nothing cool, no good moves or abilities or anything. At least its pre-evolution Sunkern is cute, but Sunflora doesn't even have that going for it. Unfortunately, it's just one of those Pokemon that will never get much love at all. Next up at the number 4 spot is Ambipom. The reason why I personally do not like Ambipom is because it ruined Aipom for me. Aipom is a cool Pokemon despite being just a normal type, but Ambipom ruins that by being really freaking ugly. Its haircut is terrible, and its tail hands look like they're all bloated and swollen. This is a Pokemon that I definitely would keep unevolved just so I wouldn't have to look at it. Its base stats definitely aren't the greatest either, and it could have been so much better. The concept of it having 2 tails and being ambidextrous as its name implies is a good one, but it ended up as a wasted opportunity that just did not work out very well. Number 3 is another monkey Pokemon, and I'll give you about 3 seconds to guess who it is. Yeah, I'm sure most of you are thinking the same thing, because number 3 is Simipour. This Pokemon is honestly just the butt of a lot of people's jokes, and for good reason. Its design is very meh right off the bat, but the kicker is its gender ratio. This Pokemon is male 87.5% of the time. This Pokemon, with the feminine hair. And the dress, for crying out loud. 87.5% male. The entire family of elemental monkeys are generally disliked as a whole, but Simipour definitely sticks out as the worst of the bunch. So remember when I mentioned that the reason I don't like Ambipom is because it's got an ugly design and it evolved from a Pokemon with a cool design? Well, the Pokemon at number 2 takes that same idea to the next level, and that Pokemon would be Aromatisse. Spritzee is a really nice looking Pokemon that had a lot of potential to evolve into something great. However, it did not. When Spritzee evolves into Aromatisse, it gets really ugly really fast. I can appreciate the fact that it's partially based on can-can dancers which come from French culture, but I think they could have implemented this concept in a much better way. Aromatisse essentially took everything that was good about Spritzee and made it look its absolute worst. On top of that, you'd think that Game Freak would have been a little more careful in making Aromatisse look as good as possible because it helped to introduce the fairy type in Pokemon X and Y. However, its design looks bad and it fell well short of expectations, earning it the number 2 spot on the countdown. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Incineroar. While I have since acknowledged that it's good enough to not make the list, I hated this Pokemon when it was first leaked. First, it's a fire starter with a wrestler design, which we already got in Gen 5 with Pignite and Emboar, and it's dangerously close to being yet another firefighting starter. It was forced into standing on its hind legs, which is overused and unnecessary, and it's literally just a buff version of Litten with little to no variance in its design, and frankly, it resembles a Looney Tune almost as much as it does a Pokemon. Before you Incineroar fans tear me a new one, however, I'd like to remind you that it didn't actually make the list and was only an honorable mention, so let's go ahead and look at number 1. And finally, my number 1 worst fully evolved Pokemon is Delphox. Oh boy, where do we begin? Well, first off, seeing as how it is number 1 on the list, Delphox is the best example of a bad evolution. It starts off totally awesome as a Fennekin, then it evolves into Braixen where some of its witch characteristics start to shine through. And at this point, if you were like me, you were probably thinking, ooh, a Fox Witch Pokemon? That's so awesome! It's probably going to be a Fire Psychic type. I can't wait to see its fully evolved form. Then at level 36, it starts evolving, and I was so excited to finally see what it was going to turn into. And then Delphox appeared, and I was just like,
no, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
For the record, I didn't even choose Fennekin on my first playthrough, so I didn't have a bond with it or anything as it evolved. I instead chose Chespin, which meant I got to watch my rival's Fennekin evolved, and when she sent out Delphox for the first time, I can't even begin to tell you how disappointed I was. The thing that turned me off first was its dress thing that it's got going on with the lower half of its body. To me, it made it look a lot more bulkier than I was expecting, and not in the sense that I thought it was going to be a tank-like Pokemon, but in the sense that its design was infinitely less sleeker than it could have been. I mean, that's kind of like the trademark characteristic of foxes. They're sleek-looking animals. Even other fox Pokemon such as Ninetales reflect this, but with Delphox they took all that sleekness away and replaced it with all the awkward and ugly looking attributes that they could think of. I'm also not a fan of its wand that it uses for its attacks. I know Braixen uses that too, but at least Braixen's wand works into its design with its tail, and it's not constantly holding it like Delphox. I mean, you're a Pokemon, you shouldn't need a wand to use your attacks. I'm sorry if you're a fan of Delphox, but in my opinion, it's an abomination in every sense of the word, and that's why it gets the number 1 spot. So there you have it. Just remember that these are my opinions, and if you disagree, that's okay. If you disagree or have another Pokemon you hate, be sure to let me know about it in the comments below. Just be respectful about it. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more Pokemon content like this every Tuesday and Saturday. With that being said, I'll be back with another video soon, and until then, I'll smell you guys later.